For attending tonight's meet and greet with Delegate Terry Austin, hosted by the Allegheny Highlands Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. Thank you to our Executive Director Teresa Hammond and Susan Nick of the Chamber for their work on this event. We appreciate and thank Justin Ryder for allowing us to use the historic Masonic Theater for this event tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce Delegate Terry Austin, who represents the 19th District in Virginia House of Delegates and is the Republican candidate for the newly created House District 37. Currently serving a 5th term in the House, Delegate Austin holds numerous committee, commission, and board appointments, to include serving as the Vice Chair for the Appropriations Committee, Chair of the House Transportation Committee, and a member of the House Rules Committee. Delegate Austin is a native of Buchanan, Virginia, and president of Austin Electrical Construction Incorporated, a small business that specializes in airport runway lighting, which he founded 47 years ago. He serves on the board of Bank of Botetourt and Carillion Clinic. Terry and his wife Kathy have 4 children and 11 grandchildren. They reside in Buchanan. At this time, I invite Terry to share his campaign vision and the reasons he wishes to represent us. Terry.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Pardon me, I need to take a sip of water here. I've been on the road running all afternoon, so thank you. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. As stated, I'm Terry Austin. I lived in Botetourt my entire life. I married Kathy, have 3 children and a stepson, 11 grandchildren. I started a business in 1973 or 4, 74, 75, I think, and grew it to the business it is today. And it is a business that my daughter, who taught school for 15 years, Katie, who lives in Rockbridge County, I was in Richmond in my office one day, and a friend of mine, a gentleman, came in and closed my door, and he said, Terry, I need to speak with you about an issue that I don't think you're aware of. And I said, okay. And he said, I need to buy your business. And I said, well, Ed, he's a friend of mine from up in Northern Virginia that I've done a lot of work with over the years. And so Ed proceeded to say that he wanted to buy my business and leave it there and keep my wife and my family running the business, because he wanted to keep me in Richmond, and with my knowledge and interest in transportation, he felt that would be beneficial. And that was the 2nd year that I was there. That was 8 years ago. So I came home, and I'd had that business for 40 years at that, 35 years at that time, I guess, thereabout, and talked with my family and my daughter, who had taught for 15 years, was a political science major. Said, I think I want to come back. She has my oldest grandchild, who's a grandson, and said, I think I want to come back and take over the business. And she's run it for now 6 years, I think. Has done just a fabulous job, far exceeded my abilities or desires or ambitions, and the business is doing very well. We all employ about 20 people who work all up and down, all over Virginia, and have worked as far as the Guantanamo Bay and up in Massachusetts at an Air Force base, up there, Westover Air Force Base. So that's where I began my career in business, and during that time I was asked by a friend, would I be interested in getting into local politics? And I said I had no interest in politics. And so he then said, well, I'm going to run for the Board of Supervisors, and if I get elected, I want to appoint you to the Planning Commission. So he did get elected. He put me on the Planning Commission in Botetourt County. I served 4 years on the Planning Commission, but he made me pledge that if he got elected and put me on the Planning Commission, that I would then run for the Board of Supervisors. So I did run for the Board of Supervisors, was successful at being elected, brought the Republican majority to that board at that time. As with all of Southwest Virginia, it was primarily Democratic, conservative Democrats, and So I then brought the majority to the Board of Supervisors. I served my first 3 years as chairman on that board, and I served on the Budget Committee for 15 of my 16 years there. Truly enjoyed it. Anybody that has an opportunity to serve in local government should do so. It far exceeds the business in Richmond, which is a business at a larger scale, but it's where you can make changes where you live, and I got great pleasure out of that. We improved Jamesville High School and did lots of other things during my term there. I've been very blessed in Richmond in the legislature. I've been able to integrate myself into that body very well. As was stated, I'm the chairman of transportation, which I'm very passionate about improving Interstate 81. I've been speaking today, this afternoon, at Hotel Roanoke to a group of the Virginia Truckers Association. Really good group of individuals who move a lot of product and help us grow our economy in the Commonwealth. Good friend of mine, Dale Bennett, is a lobbyist there, and he and I work hand in glove in trying to improve and make the highways safer, both for truckers and passenger vehicles. So I've been there for the last 3 hours, and that's why I was running very late to get here. I am Vice Chairman of Appropriations. The Speaker called me and said, "Terry, I'd like to make you Vice Chairman of Appropriations, but I really need you to chair Transportation also." And he said, "I know that's a very heavy lift to do both of those. I have very little time during the day when I'm in Richmond. I get in the building at 6 a.m. and I leave sometimes at 8, 9 o'clock at night, 5 days a week." I also serve on rules, which is not such a demanding committee as some of the others. As like with transportation, I'll give you a little insight as to what my schedule is like with transportation. I have a full transportation committee meeting every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. I have 4 subcommittees of transportation and meet 1 day a week, all 4 days. So because of we fill our committees in the legislature by proportionality. So we have a 52-48 margin. So we have very slim numbers on our committees in regard to Republican, Democrat. So as chairman, I have to go to all the subcommittee meetings because I'm an ex officio to those committees. I can set and act if I have a member not present. So that requires a lot of my time. On appropriations, I chair transportation and public safety on appropriations, but I also serve on capital and higher ed. So I have 3 subcommittees of appropriations, and then the full committee of appropriations meets twice a week also. I have 4 subcommittees of transportation and two full committee meetings that every week. But I enjoy it. I mean, I really do enjoy it. I've enjoyed my time there. I've enjoyed the privilege that you all have extended to me for the past 10 years to represent you. It's been a pleasure. I have great constituency. My district now in the 19th House District, if you enter Virginia from West Virginia on 64, my district begins there. It is all of Allegheny County, the city of Covington, greater part of Botetourt County with the exception of a little bit in the southern end. I cross the mountain over to Bedford. I take in the town of Bedford and I go all the way to Forest. So when my colleagues in Northern Virginia, who in Fairfax, there are 12 delegates in one county. I'm one delegate and I represent basically 3 counties and 2 cities. But the new district will be the same district, all of Allegheny, city of Covington. I will have Craig County, I'll have all of Botetourt County, and I'll go down and take Buena Vista, follow Route 60 to Lexington and go to Goshen, and I'll have everything west in Rockbridge County, which really makes it a lot more easier for me to get. During my time in the current 19th House seat, I always felt like I never gave the commitment that was necessary to Bedford County. But I always felt like they were understanding. They recognized the demographics, and the mountain was a huge barrier. When I come out of my office and I look west, I can see what the weather is in Allegheny County pretty much. If I turned and looked to the east, I saw the Blue Ridge Mountains. And for me to get to Bedford, I had to cross the mountain. it took a lot of time. And an hour meeting turned into a 4-hour endeavor. About an hour to get there, an hour in the meeting, an hour or so to get back. Some of the committee sons, the chairman has appointed me. I chair the I-81 committee. In 2019, we carried some legislation that appropriated $2 billion. I was a chief co-patron on that legislation. I was not the patron of the legislation. And it was legislation that was carried in both the House and the Senate. And that's called companion legislation. When you have a bill that's carried in both bodies, that's companion. So that bill fell apart because we were technically looking at tolling I-81, tolling it in its entirety, both lanes, trucks and cars. And there was a lot of opposition to that. Although people didn't understand tolling, because they didn't understand that you have an easy pay pass, which is developed right here and manufactured right here in Allegheny County and distributed statewide and somewhat nationwide. But they didn't understand tolling, and the tolling would have generated about 70% of the revenue necessary to fund the improvements of I-81. And 70% of those dollars, well, the tolling would have contributed 100% of the funding, but 70% of the dollars would have come from out of state. They were not in-state dollars. And I'll talk a little bit later about why that is more so important now than it was back then. And had people known now what they know then, they would have probably had a different opinion of it. But I chair the I-81 committee. It's important, it's necessary. We send children from here to JMU and to Virginia Tech and to Radford. We travel I-81 ourselves often. I drive from Buchanan to Richmond. It's 160 miles each direction. 64 is not nearly as unpleasant to drive on as I-81 is. And I wish I had brought my folder in on I-81. I would have given you the data. About 27% of all the trucks in the Commonwealth are on Interstate 81. And there's a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 cars to every truck on Interstate 81 today. Now, the improvements that we've made in the projects that we funded under the $2 billion funding stream in 2021 and 2022, the accident volume has decreased tremendously. In 22, the accident volume in the area that we have improved went down 50%. And that's because of the topography, the geography, the curvature, the alignment, and just having somewhere to go if you get pushed out of the road with 3 lanes versus 2. It really adds a whole new element of safety to that road. I had a good friend of mine walk into my office and ask me would I be willing to serve if he could get the speaker to appoint me to a commission called the VA 250. So I don't know what the VA 250 is, but if you tell me, I'll entertain that. So he did. The VA 250 is the commemoration of the Revolutionary War, the 250th anniversary of our nation. And so I told him, after he explained to me that, and I had never served on a commission. We had a commission for the 400th anniversary and other commissions. And so I told him, yeah, I would be willing to serve if the speaker would appoint me. Well, a week later, I get a letter from the speaker saying I've been appointed to the VA 250. So after the session was over, the VA 250 met, and I went to the first meeting. And at the first meeting, they were organized and they nominated me chairman for 2 years of the VA 250. So in March of this year, March 11th, 23, we went to Williamsburg and held an event. Now you have to understand, this is a national celebration. This is a nationwide celebration. In 2026, July the 4th, we will celebrate the semi-quincentennial of the nation's birth. So we hosted this event, Colonial Williamsburg and the VA 250, myself, and we have a staff, Cheryl Wilson. There are 3 delegates and 2 senators, Delegate Ken Plum and Delegate Buddy Fowler. Vice Chairman Senator Mamie Locke and Senator Tommy Norman, along with others, curators and other people from historical homes and things of that nature are on this commission. We go to Williamsburg and we invite all 50 states to attend. We had 34 states in attendance at that event. 34 states and about 60 localities from around the Commonwealth showed up. It's 370 people in attendance. Bill Whitaker was a speaker. Stacy Sheaf, the Pulitzer Prize winning author. Justice Kennedy was a speaker, and Carly Fiorina was a speaker. And myself, I gave introductions on opening night. On the night of March the 12th, we were led by fife and drum from the Colonial Williamsburg Hotel over to the governor's mansion. Now that was the night of the 11th, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, that was the 11th, yes. So we were led over, we had a dinner, and Bill Whitaker spoke, and Chief Atkins from the Native American Indian tribe spoke. And the next day, we marched back from the Colonial Williamsburg to the Raleigh Tavern, where we read the commending resolution, the memorial, the resolution kicking off the commemoration of the VA 250, the semi-quincentennial. Now the point is, on March the 12th, that was the exact day that Thomas Jefferson, Richard Henry Lightfoot Lee, and others had read a resolution to take up arms against the king. 250 years to the day, we read a resolution kicking off Virginia's semi-quincentennial to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation. Pretty impressive event. We have since made Carly Fiorina, who was a presidential candidate. You may remember she debated Trump on the stage. Great individual, very, very smart lady. She is our honorary spokesperson. We have all the senators, the 2 senators, federal U.S. senators, all the congressmen, all the past governors, and this Governor Youngkin on our honorary council. So we're planning another celebration this spring in Williamsburg, and then the one the year after. This is pretty huge, folks. Every local government, not every, most all local governments have adopted a resolution in support of the VA 250 and have committees formed, the SARs, the DARs, and the historical societies throughout the Commonwealth. And to give you an example, on January the 20th, 1725, at the lead mines in Austinville, Virginia, there was a resolution drafted and read at the Austinville lead mines to take up arms against the king. And that resolution was sent to Williamsburg and to Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. And that action kicked off the revolution against the king to declare our independence. That action in Southwest Virginia, because as immigrants moved west, the king said, if you continue to go west, I am not going to protect you. So these colonial people, colonial citizens moving west said, if you're not going to protect us, then why should we pay taxes? Why should we be taxed by you? So that was the initial concept. And then the Battle of Point Pleasant, which took place in West Virginia, which at that time was in Botetourt County, was the first battle to take up arms. So all this history is very, very important and very significant. And I hope we had a meeting in Botetourt, and we assembled 17 different localities came to Botetourt, and we'll come here. We're welcome to come here. I'm not sure if Allegheny, I think Allegheny and probably the city of Covington attended the one in Botetourt, and we give a little video slide presentation. And this is going to be a celebration that's going to take place from Abington to Williamsburg and from Danville to Northern Virginia. And we're not going to just celebrate on 4th of July 2026. We're going to celebrate from now until the 4th of July 2026. We're going to have a mobile exhibit that's about 1,100 square feet that folds out, and we're going to take it to all the elementary schools, courthouses, museums, and the children can learn. The governor, we met the governor last Wednesday on this. We're going to declare a day or possibly a week in school where Virginia history will be taught. You know, we have 8 presidents from Virginia. No other state in the nation can say that. We have 8 presidents from Virginia. So we're postured very well to lead the nation, and I just think that'll be phenomenal that Virginia gets a recognition. There'll be a tall ship brigade that comes into Norfolk and then on up to Arlington and on into the port of New York. A couple hundred tall ships coming. I mean, it's going to be a spectacular event, so pay attention and please engage. Please engage locally, participate. This is for all. We're not going to, you know, I said this, I will only chair this commission if we're all inclusive. We have to identify the Afro-Americans, the Native Americans, and everyone who came to this country and is now living here and a citizen of the United States. We're all inclusive in this. So please participate if you would.